Welcome to the Public Sector Marketing Show, a podcast for government and public sector marketing professionals who want to level up their digital marketing and social media knowledge, skills, and strategic thinking. And now, welcome your host, Joanne Sweeney.
Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Public Sector Marketing Show. Now, this is an exciting show. I'm going to talk about how to land a digital marketing job in government or public sector. Now, you already may be working in this sector, but looking to sidestep or indeed climb the ladder. Or maybe you're working in private sector or in NGO and you want to make the jump over. You better stay tuned. So, how to improve your CV and also your LinkedIn profile so that it stands out for this sector. What skills and competencies is government and public sector looking for, and how to excel at an interview? And I've got a really exciting tool for you to take at the end of the show, and that is my digital skills quiz to test your knowledge about digital marketing. In today's column, I'm going to give you some insights into what government and public sector marketing and communications managers are looking for in a digital marketer. Well, the first thing is probably a qualification. You may have left college like I did with a communications qualification, but right now there will be looking on your CV and LinkedIn profile for some sort of digital marketing or social media qualification. These are industry qualifications, and these courses are designed with practice and applicability to the workplace in mind. They will also look for practical experience. I describe digital marketing as vocational skills. These are skills that you apply to the workplace that have an immediate impact. So you will have to have some experience. If you don't have practical experience, make sure that you try and get it. The other thing that I would say is with those skills, make sure that you hone them. Being specialized in a couple of areas of digital marketing is a good idea. You can be a generalist digital marketer, but very often you will see jobs advertised for specialist positions. So for example, a digital content creator, social customer service, data analytics, social media management, website management, digital PR and media relations. So perhaps you want to go into some specialism. I don't think that that's going to narrow the gap for you. I think it's going to increase your ability to make an impact when number one, getting chosen for an interview, and then number two, getting past the interview and securing that job. The other thing that I would say to you is that you need to have a strategic approach to digital marketing. It's so important that if you're going to go into a department, if you're sidestepping, or if you're going to come in new to an organization, that you bring that critical thinking with you. Because it's not enough just to complete a set of tasks and to show up every day and have a checklist and do the job, do this and do that. We really need to see people who can go in and explain the why of a digital marketing plan, and then the how to implement it in terms of tactics. The other thing that I would say is that digital marketing is a discipline that is very team orientated. You're unlikely to be operating on your own. Yes, you might be writing web content and spend hours at your PC or Mac on your own, but it's very much in collaboration with subject matter experts, liaising with the press and media team, understanding what's happening within the organization at a broader scale. So you need to be a team player as well as a self-starter. I also think that understanding the nuances of politics, public policy, and government is very important. So if you don't currently work in government or public sector, brush up on what that means in 2021. It's a fast-paced environment in terms of things are changing every day because of the wheels of politics and the wheels of traditional media and journalists driving the narrative. So you're going to have an understanding of how these types of organizations work. And then the final thing that I would say to you is bring your best self. I do believe that there are really big digital skills gaps in this sector right across the world right now. And if you feel that you have a skill set, an astute understanding of digital marketing, and perhaps you're a specialist in some area, then put yourself forward. I am always saying it. We do not have enough good digital marketers in the world. And right now, one sector that is hiring and one sector that really needs good digital marketers is government and public sector.
Level up your digital skills by taking our diploma in digital marketing, plus gain an industry qualification. Use the code digitalmarketing20 for a 20% discount.
Visit publicsectormarketingpros.com.
In today's consulting section, I want to pretend that I am consulting to your organization as a digital marketer. I'm doing this because it will give our viewers and our listeners an insight into the kind of approach that they need to take if they are going to be working at a high level in digital marketing in government and public sector. The first thing I want to say is digital marketing skills will be native in a number of years. And on top of that, technology is going to replace a lot of what we as humans are doing right now. So what I'm teaching now is going to be drastically changed in 5 years' time. So we kind of need everyone to keep up in terms of their skill set and the digital revolution. So very often I'm hired in by organizations to consult on a particular campaign or to write a digital marketing or a social media strategy. And the first thing that I ask is, what are the organizational goals? And if you can prepare your thinking and come to digital marketing from this approach, you will be successful. The reason that I ask that as the first question is, number one, there might be a culture and a mindset within an organization where they do not believe that digital marketing or digital communications can have a significant impact. The other thing is that I want to find out, well, what does success look like for you in this campaign? What are the deliverables for me? What are the outcomes that I need to bring to the organization? So being able to tease that out and discuss that out is very, very important. And that requires a level of astuteness from a digital marketer. And this is where the understanding of the nuances of politics, public policy and government come into play. Because remember, success is not going to look like a conversion rate of 5%. Bringing a revenue increase of 10%. This is not business. This is the business of government and public sector. So understanding organizational goals and mapping KPIs, digital KPIs back to those goals. That's the first critical thinking piece that you need to do. The second piece is that you want to understand what audience segments that you are going to be targeting. And of course, any good marketer will know that we don't target everybody. We go niche, especially when we go online, we niche down in order to scale up. So understanding audience segments and then going away and doing some social listening, because the organization might very well understand the pain points for the organization, but you also need to understand the pain points for the public. And then the campaign messaging is that little bit of sweet spot right in the middle. So if you're a good digital marketer and you're savvy, you'll go away and you will do some social listening and bring some of that research and data back to the table before designing your strategy. The next thing that we want to think about is time frame. Many campaigns, indeed strategies, will have a time frame. So what is the shelf life and how long will this campaign be always on? Then you're kind of moving in then to tactics and understanding where on the social web that audience is migrating and where can you capture those micro moments, those intent-rich moments where preferences are shaped and decisions are made. And that's what we want to do in digital marketing. We want to have an omni-channel presence. We want to step into relevant micro moments where the public are thinking about a time when they might be engaging with a public service. If I think about something like long COVID, for example, that's a discussion that's becoming more widespread now as we come out of, dare I say it, COVID-19. So we're seeing people that are left with the after effects of having coronavirus. And so if I wanted to reach people who are experiencing long COVID, or indeed their families or friends, then I would go deep on that topic. I would also have a look at where on the internet these individuals are migrating and where they're currently getting their information from. Because the role of government and public sector is to step into those conversations and to make sure that you get maximum social voice and that the truth rises to the top. Social media is obviously something that we're going to think deeply on. And then it's the social networks that we choose relevant to the audience. But then we get into tactics. Are we going to do stories, live streams, Twitter chats, Instagram reels, or even TikTok videos? Again, this has to come from a place of the audience, making sure that you're staying in tune with the brand and the messaging of the organization. But everything that you do in digital marketing for government and public sector comes from a place of audience and citizen first. You have to be able to set up yourself for success. And we said at the beginning we would set up KPIs. And when you have KPIs, you need a measurement framework. And that measurement framework is going to tie all of your digital dots together, from web, social, PPC, email marketing, content marketing, and being able to understand the data and be able to monitor it in real time, and to really understand if your campaign is working or if you need to iterate. Implementation is very important. And with implementation, let's get back to the automation and to the artificial intelligence, because there are apps, tools, and software that can do much of the work that humans shouldn't be doing right now. And we should leverage those for better efficiency, but also for better effectiveness. In reality, if you want to have a job as a digital marketer in government and public sector, you need to be able to articulate the why. You also need to articulate the how, and you need to be able to actually implement it. That will come with practice. That will also come with study and research and understanding trends and changes in the industry. So that's how I would approach a campaign for a client. And that, I guess, is an example of how you should be able to articulate yourself in an interview.
A one-stop shop digital marketing and social media resource. Join our membership academy for 12 months. Access a library of how-to videos, template strategies, and organizational policies. Monthly live coaching. Attend webinars with subject matter experts. Meet and network with public sector pros from across the world. Use the code MEMBERSHIP20 for a 20% discount.
Visit publicsectormarketingpros.com.
Emma Swift, you are a communications professional working in national government, but making a shift into local government. First of all, tell us a little bit about your background and your career to date in government comms.
Sure. I studied journalism at university, but that was way back in the mid-90s. So journalism back then was a very different profession than it is now. And I never actually ended up going into journalism. I worked in a lot of jobs where my communication skills were very useful, but never actually as a journalist. And then for the last 9 years, I've actually worked for a member of the Scottish Parliament, doing mainly communications, but also a lot of policy work. So briefings for MSPs, work on legislation, on campaigns, a real kind of jack of all trades job. You need to be able to do anything and everything, and often at a moment's notice. And my current boss is actually standing down at the Scottish Parliament election in May. So that meant that it's time for all of us in the team to look for a new job or a new challenge. And I'm kind of in the fortunate position that I'm based in Edinburgh, which in the central belt of Scotland. There's a lot of jobs going in communications, in policy, in that kind of line of work. My colleagues based up in Aberdeen, which is where the MSP is from, are not so fortunate. They're kind of struggling to find opportunities. But literally, this was, I think, my second job interview. I managed to find a new opportunity to move into.
And so we kind of have a similar background. I'm also a former journalist. I did work in journalism, but after my first job, I left and still stayed in comms. So we're similar in that vein. Now, what I wanted to talk to you about is this show is all about how to land a digital marketing job in government and public sector. So you had this interview, but you were 2 weeks into your professional diploma in social media for government and public sector with me. And obviously, that was obviously a great hook. Tell us about what happened then.
So I'd literally done the first module and a couple of videos from the second. That was all. The first module, though, was essentially what kind of sold me in the interview, because it was such a kind of a good broad introduction to the sort of the themes and ideas behind why social media is so important to sort of marketing and communications in the public sector. And it was really interesting because the interview panel was 3 people. It was a younger woman, about my age, maybe slightly younger, and 2 older men who were kind of the managers. And what was really interesting was I had to do a short presentation about some of the ideas that I would introduce if I was going to improve their communication strategy. And I talked about Instagram and LinkedIn Live, and they don't even have a Facebook page, this organization. So that was the first thing, obviously. And you could tell that the 2 older guys were kind of, I would say, social cynics. They weren't necessarily kind of bought into, is this what we need to do? They engaged, their kind of engagement is very much with councillors, local councillors, not so much with the public. So they were like, really, do we need to do that? But councillors all have Facebook accounts. A lot of them have Instagram accounts. Certainly local councils in Scotland all have Instagram accounts. So this organisation, I said, you need to be on the same platforms as your key stakeholders. And they really liked that idea. And they were kind of, they did sort of talk about some of the pitfalls, like, well, if we're going to expand our social media reach, what kind of problems will you encounter? And I sort of talked about some of the things again that came up in the first module about having to sort of monitor accounts, respond in a timely fashion. And I was trotting out phrases like social media policy and things like that. I was saying, if you have a set social media policy that you make sure it's public, then the public know what to expect. And yeah, so they were, I kind of amazed myself with some of the lines and the sort of the key phrases I was coming out with during the interview. But it really couldn't have gone any better. And they phoned me literally the next morning at 9:15 to offer me the job.
Well, congratulations on your new job. I'm absolutely thrilled. And this isn't the first time that this has happened, where a student has come on the course and they've actually leveraged the new knowledge to influence and to bring that into their existing organization if they're going for promotion, or into a new organization. So now you have the wonderful prospect of being that digital transformation champion in that organization. Are you excited for that leap as well?
Absolutely. I mean, I managed the social media for my current employer, but he very much was not, no matter how much I tried to sell social media to him, he was not very interested. So it was Twitter and Facebook, and that was it. And it was the bare minimum to kind of show that he had a presence. And I always would have these ideas about, well, but we could do this. And you know, to be honest, a lot of it was, MSPs are very busy people and you'd run out of time. Now I feel like I'm going to an organization where they've developed a new communication strategy last year, and they're now trying to implement it. So I kind of feel like this is a really good time to get in and to kind of sell some new ideas to them. And I've already I've set up my own Instagram account for the first time, because I'd kind of been probably influenced by thinking that Instagram was a bit frivolous. And now I realize, now that I've joined, I'm like, no, there's some sort of serious organizations and serious people on here. So even just that, I'm looking forward to seeing what I can do with Instagram and the different things I can do with Facebook and Twitter to kind of promote this organization. Some of the work they do, I guess it can be quite dry. Quite a lot of it is kind of IT support and technical. So I'm really looking forward to trying to come up with some creative ideas to kind of show off what they do in a more fun light, show it off a bit, sort of a bit more entertaining, a bit more behind the scenes, so that you can actually meet the people who are involved, rather than just talking about sort of, what computer assets they're providing for local government and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm really excited to get started, and the great thing is I don't start until the 10th of May, so I'll have time to work through the entire module before I start. So that's great as well.
Yeah, and actually you're going to hit the content marketing module, the social and live video module, the deep dive into every individual social network, and then of course the boring but important piece around policy and governance.
Yeah.
And that will help you get more buy-in. So another opportunity for you will be to engage in storytelling, and to then work with all those local government agencies and raising their profile by virtue of your organization.
Yeah, the organisation I'm going to be working for, they have a very close relationship with an organisation called COSLA, which is the Convention of Scottish Local Authorities, which is essentially the umbrella organisation for all local government in Scotland. And that's going to be, I guess, the most sort of fun part of the job, because that's where you get to kind of promote best practice in local government. So find some really interesting case studies across Scotland, could be up in the Shetland Islands, could be down in the borders. Find some examples where local government have done some really good things, some really interesting and innovative projects, and to kind of promote them through whether that's LinkedIn Live or Facebook Live. And because now people are much more comfortable with speaking on Zoom, you can do that. You can speak to people up in the Shetlands about the project that they're working on without the need to send me up there to talk to them about it. So there really is, I'm only kind of hemmed in by the actual Scottish borders, in a sense, in what I can do and what I'm going to be able to talk about. And yeah, I'm really excited to kind of work with other comms professionals in other local councils and in COSLA. There's going to be a very close working relationship there, which is quite nice. I think I'm essentially going to be the only communications officer at my organisation, but there's a very close working relationship with everybody in local government. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to learn from them, pick their brains, and maybe even give them some ideas from the course as well. So
having worked in one job for 9 years and coming from traditional comms as in journalism, albeit you didn't take up a position in it, what do you think is important? What do you think government and public sector organisations are looking in candidates now for interview? Why do you think you stood out, and why do you think you got the job?
I think flexibility is quite a key thing. The ability to kind of be, like I said before about my job currently, you need to be a jack of all trades. I think there is an element of that in comms work at the moment. It's no longer just, can you write a press release? That's kind of what comms. When I first graduated, I went for a communications officer job, and the test before the interview was write a press release. For this job, I had to, as I say, put a presentation together. I had to send them a portfolio, including social media work. So you've got to show flexibility. You've got to show a passion for it. I think, as I say, I was genuinely really excited to talk about some of the ideas that I'd had after just one module. And I think that came across. This isn't just, okay, I can do all this stuff and yeah, I'll be able to kind of tick the boxes for you. I think they could see that I'd looked at what they do already on social media and had genuinely put some thought into how they could improve and how I could help them improve. And they really responded to that. I think also you've got to kind of be able to sell social media, because there are going to be, especially in management, a lot of people who haven't yet embraced social media and who perhaps don't necessarily see it as a key part of the communication strategy. That was certainly the case with my interview. One of the older gentlemen, he was kind of asking about Instagram, and I was quoting figures that I'd seen in the first module from the course. And he was genuinely quite surprised that Instagram was so widely used. And I think one of his comments in the interview was, well, if you were pitching to me for funding, you'd get it. kind of thing. So you've got to be able to explain the reasons behind it, the value behind it, as well as the ideas, the creative ideas, and the fact that you can put together an Instagram story. You've got to back it up with good solid facts as well.
And you invested in yourself. So you made the decision. You knew you were going to have a gap in your employment. As it turns out, now you're not going to really have any gap. But you decided to invest in yourself. You were very decisive when we met each other digitally online. You were very decisive. You said, I've been working in this job. I'm going to be job hunting. I really want to upskill. Sometimes I feel that public sector pros who've been working a long time in their job in the same organization have fear around, I won't be able for it. What would you say to people like that who have that fear, and maybe that's stopping them from upskilling?
I think I've been slightly fortunate in that working for an MSP at the Scottish Parliament, the Scottish Parliament themselves were always very keen on keeping staff trained. So there's been very superficial social media training all along that I worked for an MSP. It also probably helps a little bit. I've worked alongside quite a lot of young people who embrace social media. I think that there was no sort of nervousness for me. It was more a case of the fact is the world is changing. The comms world really is changing. And if you want to stay in sort of the best jobs and the most exciting and the most positive and creative jobs, you need to kind of catch up with that, whether that's tech skills or social media sort of analysis skills. Everything like that is needed. That's been abundantly clear from looking at some of the job descriptions that I've looked at, the couple of job interviews I've had. One of the job interviews, I would say 50% of the time we talked about social media and social media planning and what have I done about social media plans and this, that and the other. There really is no kind of alternative. The fear for me would be to not do it, to not upskill, to not catch up with the rest of the world, to not be on a level playing field with the other comms professionals, perhaps those who are 10 or 15 years younger and who are graduating from university with degrees in social media these days. That would be the fear for me, is to not do it and to get left behind and to end up in a job that was just sort of, a bit of a dead end job, really.
Well, listen, it's a great story, Emma, and it's been obviously a pleasure to meet you and to work with you and to have you study with us. And I can't wait for the revelations and the inspirations that you have in your job. So maybe we might have to get you back on the show. But congratulations once again. And thank you
very much.
Level up your social media skills by taking our diploma in social media, plus gain an industry qualification. Use the code SocialMedia20 for a 20% discount.
Visit publicsectormarketingpros.com.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Public Sector Marketing Show. If you want to elevate your digital skills, make sure that you have a look at one of the accredited courses that we have on offer, and keep tuning into this show and this podcast because, of course, I share tips and tricks every week. If you haven't already, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and also to our YouTube channel. And if you enjoy the show, I'd really appreciate you to rate it, to review it, and to share it with one other public sector pro that you know. Before I go, I want to let you know that I do have a digital skill assessment on the blog post associated with this podcast. So go ahead and jump over to publicsectormarketingpros.com, and I will see you on the next episode.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Public Sector Marketing Show. This episode has ended, but your digital journey can continue. Head over to publicsectormarketingpros.com to access resources and links mentioned in today's show and to connect with Joanne and her team. Until the next time, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast platform.